In 2013, basketball icon Michael Jordan married Yvette Prieto. And while they seem to have a fairly normal marriage, there's one thing about it that is actually very far from normal. According to multiple sources, their prenuptial agreement is pretty unusual, and what this means for their marriage is shocking. Michael met Yvette at a club in the late 2000s. Although it was reportedly love at first sight, they waited a few years before they finally tied the knot. Michael had previously been married to Juanita Vanoy from 1989 to 2006. After their divorce, Juanita hit the headlines for the incredible amount of money she got in their settlement. Michael had one of the greatest careers in the history of professional sports, which is why Juanita was able to eventually walk away from the marriage with an insane $168 million. At the time, it was the largest divorce settlement in the entertainment history. This was due to the fact that they had not put up a prenup in place before their marriage, and Michael was determined not to let that happen again with Yvette. While working on the prenup agreement, the basketball player put in a divorce clause that was described as pretty complicated. His intention with the clause was to protect his net worth if he and Yvette ever split up for good. The clause stated that this happened before Yvette was married to Michael for 10 years, she would receive $1 million for every year of the marriage. While this still sounds like plenty of money, it is definitely a whole lot less than what Michael had to pay Juanita. And if they split after 10 years together, she would be entitled to $5 million for every year that they were married. And although that sounds like a lot more than $1 million, it still sounds like it would be a pretty huge saving for Michael. Having gotten married in 2013, they will reach a decade together this year. So if they were to divorce in 2023, Yvette could expect around $50 million from Michael. Or in other words, less than a third of what Juanita was paid. But as of right now, it doesn't look like they are planning to go their separate ways anytime soon. In fact, Yvette has been reported as saying that she finds it quite difficult to believe that they might ever grow apart. Their relationship seems to be going from strength to strength, and it's been like that ever since they first met. After his divorce from his first wife, Michael stayed single for a couple of years, but when he saw Yvette in a nightclub in Miami, everything changed for him. After just a couple of years of dating, they moved in together in 2011, and just 2 years after that, they decided to get married. Although the speed at which their relationship was moving may have surprised some, many people supported it. One of those people was Michael's former teammate, John Sally. John described Michael's new partner as the bomb. He went on to describe how she kept Michael grounded. John said that Yvette made Michael do normal things, which John thought was good for him, even though it was apparently kind of crazy to see. And honestly, I feel like it would take a pretty special person to bring a star as big as Michael down to earth. Yvette and Michael also share 2 kids. In February 2014, Yvette gave birth to twin daughters named Isabel and Victoria. Even though they were born, Michael has tried very hard to keep them out of the spotlight. Although his older children are comfortable with the attention their famous dad has brought them, this wasn't something he wanted for Isabel and Victoria. Still, it must be pretty difficult to keep them completely out of the attention of the media, especially since the entire timeline of his relationship with their mother has always been so widely reported on. Ever since their first meeting in a nightclub in 2007, reporters have been desperate to find out more about Yvette. According to the Bleacher Report, she used to date Julio Iglesias Jr., the brother of Enrique Iglesias, before settling down with Michael. Yvette, who was 15 years younger than her husband, also used to work as a model. She worked for big names like Alexander Wang. Her and Michael's wedding was big news in the tabloids, especially after some of the lavish details about the ceremony were discovered. According to US Weekly, the wedding cost around $10 million. They got married in the Episcopal Church of Bethesda by the Sea. Among the guests were Tiger Woods and Spike Lee. Usher and Robin Thicke were also there to perform at the reception at Bears Club in Jupiter, Florida. But despite so much interest from the media, Yvette was noticeably absent from Michael's recent Netflix documentary, The Last Dance. Many people were curious why Yvette wasn't featured to talk about her husband. It was reported that this was not her decision. Apparently, the documentary director, Jason Hare, made the call. He explained to The Athletic that he wasn't interested in the opinion of any wife or kids for the movie. He believed that he already had the story covered from every angle, but a lot of viewers had a different opinion. They felt the documentary would have been improved by showing a glimpse of Michael's life away from the basketball court. Many also wanted the documentary to shine more light on Michael's first marriage to Juanita and what happened to make things go wrong after so many years together. Michael met Juanita at a restaurant near Chicago in the late 1980s. At the time, Juanita was working as a loan officer at a bank, which looking back must have made it even more amazing to see how her life was about to change. They got married at the Little White Chapel in Las Vegas, but early on, there were signs of problems in the marriage. These stemmed from Michael's insane dedication to his sport and the time he spent away from his family. After he retired, Juanita supposedly hoped that things would improve. However, Michael went on to return from retirement multiple times. When he decided to come back to play for the Washington Wizards, Juanita decided to make a stand. She was quoted as saying that she had no problem being a B-word to protect the family they built. However, her stand didn't work and Michael signed with the Wizards in September 2001. Months later, Juanita filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. This was in 2002. However, people were then shocked when it looked like the couple might get back together. There were rumors that Juanita had reconciled with Michael after he took the threat of divorce seriously. Sadly, this wouldn't last as they split for good 4 years later, but those last few years were enough to stop them from leaving each other on a bad note, as it was reported that they arrived at the decision mutually and amicably. However, Michael might not have felt so good about it after realizing how much he was going to have to pay his ex-wife. To this day, it still stands as the biggest divorce settlement ever for an athlete, and it was the reason for his unique prenup agreement with his next wife. The settlement was such big news that years before marrying Yvette, articles were published on the topic of Michael's next prenup. As early as 2011, Bleacher Report ran an article suggesting some conditions Michael wanted to include, and some of them were hilarious. One provision was that Yvette should agree that Space Jam was the greatest movie of all time. Another demanded that Yvette had to hate the people that Michael had his most petty feuds with. Among these names were sports writers who had doubted him and even his old high school coach. Bleacher Report also suggested that at no point in their marriage could Yvette imply that either LeBron James or Kobe Bryant was the GOAT. So although the reality of the prenup is pretty unusual, by the standing, it could have been a lot weirder. But what do you guys think? Was Michael smart to include the divorce clause in the prenup, or is he too concerned about his money? Let me know in the comments below.